703 to a residence.
Students who are learning to drive are typically at much higher risk of being involved in an accident, receiving a citation, and being injured. And we want to do something about that, and that's why we have the collision avoidance training.
This is not a driver's education program. This is all about collision avoidance. It doesn't teach you about red lights, green lights, and yellow lights. It teaches you about what to do if a hazard pulls out in front of you, to avoid the collision or minimize the damage of a collision instead of worrying about the bookend of driving.
The reason we do the class is students are really in an at-risk group. Alcohol, drugs, peer pressure, they start to drive, texting, cell phones, all that. And if there's anything that we can do to improve their safety and make it where they can transition through this period of their life more safely, we're happy to do it.
The class is designed for 15 to 19-year-olds, specifically for the purpose of becoming experienced drivers. That age group is 4 times more likely to be involved in a crash. Therefore, the inexperience is the cause of that.
The collision avoidance training is such a valuable program, not just for teenagers, but even for older adults like our officers at the department. Because the program is so good, I had all of our officers that drive a car go through this exact training program.
So day one, we meet here at the police department. We run about 3.5 to 4 hours in the evening time, and basically what we're doing is we're talking about all the things that they teach during driver's ed. We get a little bit more in depth as far as the liabilities and the responsibilities that the drivers have, to include the insurance. We teach them about the vehicle itself, the tire tread, air pressure, so they can maintain their own vehicles. We get into the drugs, the alcohol, the impaired driving, and more importantly, recently, because of the new laws, we do talk about texting and driving, and that's actually more dangerous than drinking and driving. And during that time, it's nice because we get to build a bridge so they understand us not as a badge, but as humans. And we get to understand their philosophy because the class is built on their input.
Well, a lot of times police officers only interact with teenagers when there's been an issue or some kind of problem. This is a very informal kind of activity, a time when the officers are not dressed necessarily in their uniforms. So it gives the students an opportunity to really see officers in a different light. And it's built some positive relationships between the students of the class and our officers that I think are going to carry through for many years to come.
So we run 8 driving skills on the second day of the class. The first one we do is a steering technique called the figure 8. We do that at the beginning of the day. We let them run about 15 miles an hour, and by the end of the day they're running about 18 to 22 miles an hour without hitting cones. And this gives them the opportunity to learn how to steer properly, or a better technique for steering. And then we move to a serpentine, which is a more advanced steering technique because the speeds are a little bit faster and the cornering is tighter. And then we move to the backup drill, which is basically what we call it the star. It forces them to make several right turns and then a reverse going in the opposite direction into parking spaces. And then from there we go into evasive maneuvers and straight line braking, so they understand that in the straight line braking, if they try to maneuver the car while they're skidding, it's not going to do anything but go forward. So we teach them how to threshold brake, which allows them, the wheels to actually still be rotating and them to be able to maneuver the vehicle to avoid the collisions. And then after that we actually do an evasive maneuver where we have an instructor, generally me, on cue they have to avoid me. And then what we do is we run timed events to show them the improvement from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And that way we know that they're actually exceeding the speed limits that we want them to do, but staying within the speed limits we want them to. The way the program is designed through the repetitions, it builds a subconscious effort, so that way when a hazard does appear, they don't have to think through it. Their IDA process, or their OODA loop, is actually speeding up. The average driver has about a 2-second reaction time to a hazard. We can make it about 1.5 seconds.
Of the past participants of our collision avoidance training who responded to the survey, none of them have been involved in an at-fault accident, and none of them have received a citation, which is remarkable.
Number one, the parents get a credit on their insurance, because as we all know, teenage drivers, their insurance is very expensive. Through this class, once they successfully complete it, it's about a 5 to 12% decrease in their insurance payments. And they also get a more mature driver behind the wheel of the car that they're paying for.
It's common sense. We're making a safer community.